Would you like to move admission of your pre-filed testimony and exhibits?
Yes, please.
All right. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the board will admit and give the weight due. We'll now turn it. You've been here all afternoon and watched how we do this.
So. I want to say thank you very much for staying late. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Mrs. Stenographer lady. Thank you, Vic. Thanks. Really appreciate it.
We are happy to stay here and appreciate your patience. So, parties have any questions? Ms. Grunhagen?
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. First of all, just as a correction, I believe your name is misspelled wrong. Would you like to make that spelling correction?
So B as in boy, A-N-W-A-R-T. So okay. I was up against the timeline for getting this put in, so I wasn't real watching what I was doing that closely.
Totally understandable. I just wanted to let you fix that typo.
Thank you.
No problem. In the second question there on the first page, you talk about a community tile project with a 48-inch tile line.
Yes. So my piece of ground is about 2 miles away from the creek, and I never had an opportunity to get water away from my land. I had a 30-inch county tile, but there was way too much water, more than what it could handle. So 7 landowners got together and we put in a 48-inch main that goes clear to the south east corner of my land, and the pipeline is going to be awfully close, if not, well, they're going to cut through it sometimes, but it's going to be following it really closely, and I think it's going to get damaged. And we were hoping that they would maybe change their route and not put it through there. Yeah, but we were told that the route couldn't be changed. So one of our landowners decided to build a new hog building in the spot where the pipeline was supposed to go. And so this summer, the survey crew came out and asked him if they could resurvey his land. And he asked why, and they said, well, we need to move our pipeline because you put a hog building there. So they can move the pipeline. So it is possible that can happen. Maybe not for a 48-inch tile. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we've talked to some of your neighbors here a few weeks ago, and so this is a continuation of, and is it the Fair family?
Yep.
And
yes. Yep. Clear Creek Acres. Yep. The Fair family.
And okay.
Yep. Yep.
Could we pull up the KMZ?
continues south and drains this farm, and then it goes across the road and it drains this farm. So as you can see, there's a lot of land that's getting drained through that big tile. And again, my question is okay, so if they damage that and it ruins the one in the southern end, where's the compensation? I mean, there's no contract signed with neighbors, so I don't know how that would work.
And there's a main tile that goes to the west, and you had described earlier from that junction box or junction area in the southeast corner of the east parcel.
Yep. So then
the line that goes to the west, does it cross the proposed pipeline route a couple of times?
It will cross here, so that will cross there, and then goes here, and then it goes across the road to the next parcel, and then goes along up this direction.
Okay.
And then as you can see, it goes at an angle then, and goes clear up across to here, and drains some of the land across the highway there also, right here.
Okay, so when you say here, that's the Western Farmstead where you
Western
live?
Farmstead, Section 28 of Fern Valley, yep.
Okay, and so those larger tile mains then, do they only really impact the route on the two eastern parcels?
Well, no.
Or does it also impact the two western parcels? It's going to be
impacted on fairs to the east, so the people that you had here before, it's going to be impacted on their land also.
Yeah, but of your 4 parcels, is it only the 2 eastern ones?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. It's the 2 southern ones of Section 27. Okay. This quarter, it's these 2 40s or these 2 parcels. Of Section 28, it's these 2 40s or these 2 parcels. They had to do this because they can't go through a railroad tracks other than perpendicular. So that's why they had to mess around in here. And to go through railroad tracks, they have to directional bore it. So they have to take like a 1,200-foot pipe and run it clear out into here to get it underneath the railroad tracks when they go to put it in. So there's going to be a lot of damage to the field when they go to directional bore that.
So on your 2 eastern parcels there,
yep.
Do you know how deep those tile mains are buried?
Well, they're up to spots. They're clear to 14 feet deep in some areas. I'm not sure exactly where those are at. We had a meeting with Summit before springtime last year, I believe, and we had the man that put the tile in come and show them the tile project, and with all the depths and all the tile sizes and everything. So they had an opportunity to see what was there in hopes that maybe they'd move the pipeline. But it didn't happen. And
your concern with impacting that is it's not just your 2 parcels that are using
it's
that
going to impact all 7 landowners, not just people that they sign contracts with.
Okay. Thank you. I have no other questions.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor?
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, I'm not quite sure how it would damage the other landowners' tiles, or would it just not drain their land properly?
It would not drain their land properly. Okay. if that main doesn't work properly.
But there wouldn't be any damage on those other person's properties' tile.
The damage would be if their water doesn't go away and their crop is ruined by too much water.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Not by any of the physical putting of the pipeline in. No. But okay. But the water would be the problem.
Did I hear you say that some of the tile on your property is 14 feet deep?
There's areas that they dug it 14 feet deep, yes, to get it to flow correctly. There is a 30-inch main that goes down, follows this kind of, we're nearby that. that the WPA put in years and years and years ago. And so that was the county tile. And I don't know, they were supposed to try to stay, I don't know, they're trying to stay 4 foot below the county tile. I don't know where they're trying to go as far, or they're just going to cut through those two. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, that was my next question, I guess. Did you talk to any land agent or representative from Summit about whether they would go above or below that 14 foot deep tile?
I didn't ask them that. The only thing I asked them is how do we make reparations for the people that are not on the line?
What did they say?
They didn't know. They would answer. They would get back to me with that.
Did they?
No.
You said that in your prepared testimony that you use strip till, no-till, and cover crops. Are there any specific considerations about those particular tillage practices that would make the pipeline a more of a challenge?
So I've changed the way I farmed. Instead of doing convention of tillage, I've done strip till and no-till on that farm, and also used cover crops. By doing that, I could sign up for carbon credits through Indigo, but it's through Corteva, so they'll pay me. They took soil samples. They're gonna, and I think they're using aerial imagery, and they're going to decide how many tons of carbon they think I sequestered by changing the way I farm. And then in return, they'll give me X amount of dollars for the tons that I sequestered. So if the pipeline goes through, I'm guessing I'm going to get thrown out of that, because I would guess that the soil profile will get screwed up enough that I'm not going to be sequestering as much carbon. So I don't know why eminent domain can be used against me when I want to try to do my own carbon sequestration, and instead someone else can use eminent domain to use my land for their sequestration.
So who pays you the carbon credits?
So Indigo will pay Corteva, and Corteva will pay me. I sell seed for Pioneer, so this is something that I can talk to my other customers about, but I thought I'd be the guinea pig so that I would know, how it worked. They're a little slow on paying. They haven't paid 2022 yet. They're supposed to be paying it in March of 24. So I would tell people that don't expect your money really quickly if you plan on doing that.
For the record and for my education, what is Indigo and what is Corteva?
So Corteva is the mother company, or when Dow and DuPont got together, they had to split into 3 different corporations. The government said they were too big otherwise. So they made all their agricultural things into one company, and that's named Corteva. Pioneer, the hybrid of seed, is owned by Corteva. So it's been an American company since 1926, and the other 2 are ChemChina and BASF, so Germany. So we're of the big 3, we're the only one that's still American.
Okay. So how much carbon do you sequester, do you know?
Good question. 2022 is my first year. I haven't heard back from them at all. So I'm not sure. Is this a $10 an acre thing? Is this a $20 an acre thing? I have no idea. I'm not sure. So like I said, I'm the guinea pig. I want to see how this works. And then if it does work, I think there'd be more guys that would be interested in trying that.
Do you have any sense of how that would compare to the carbon that Summit proposes to capture from these ethanol plants?
I'm sure it would be a small scale in compared to what they're trying to do. Yes. Yeah. I was interested when the one fellow said that they were talking about using pellets of carbon to put in the ground. I've seen studies that said one of the reasons we're getting greater yields is because there's more carbon in the air. So maybe there's a way we can spoon feed this carbon to the crop itself. It changes it into oxygen and raises more crop for us. So maybe that's a possibility of something to look at.
The occupied structures that were shown on the KMZ file, how far are those from the pipeline route?
I don't know exactly. If they want to measure them, they can, but it's close enough that with a 20-inch pipe that they're talking about, we wouldn't have to worry about suffering too long, I don't think.
Okay. Speaking of that, how close would the closest emergency management personnel be?
It'd be 7 miles away. Yep, West Bend or Whittemore would be 7 miles.
I assume those are volunteer.
They are, yep. Yep.
You mentioned a creek. Would the pipeline cross the creek?
Yes, yep, it will cross the creek. So if you go east, yep, keep a little bit. Let's see. There's where is the creek there? Right there. There's the creek. Yep. So that's where our 48-inch main goes to, is that creek.
Okay, so right on the very eastern edge of your property.
No, that's not my property. That would be the fairs.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So that's the creek that the tile goes to. Otherwise, I was landlocked before. I didn't have an opportunity to get. I could have pattern tiled all I wanted, but without a way to get rid of the water, it didn't do you any good.
Okay.
If you scan back out there again, so right there is where they put the hog building. The pipeline was supposed to go across right through there, but for some reason now it goes up in this way. I don't know why that would be, but for some reason they didn't just put it through the hog operation.
And this is that area where was that what you might call a hump?
Yeah, there's a hump there. Okay. I think from there to that house where the migrant workers live on Fairs is 215 feet. So they wouldn't have to suffer very long either.
Okay. I think you talked about your conversations with the Summit land agents. What kind of experience have you had with the land agents?
I've had 3 different land agents. One was from Texas, one was from out in Wyoming, and the last lady, I'm not sure where she was from. I was never badgered too much because I told them I didn't care what kind of money they gave me. I wasn't interested in signing anything. So with that, they didn't bother me too much. Okay.
And so there was no discussion about changing the route or some other negotiation?
Like I said, we had asked them about that when the 7 of us landowners got together with them prior to spring of last year and tried to get them to change the route, and they wouldn't do that.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Mr. Jorde?
Yes, thank you. Can we pull that KMZ back up, please? Sir, I just want to get a little better estimate. So your son's home is on the quarter section to the east of your home, and pretty obvious to see that that's less than a half mile from
a little less than a half mile. Yep.
And then where the proposed bend off the railroad comes in south, or would come in south of your property, that's probably closer to a 1/3 mile based on how your property comes south there?
Yes, I would say that's true.
Now, do you own the land in that triangle shape south of the 240s that are affected on your quarter there?
Nope, my neighbor Jerry Thatcher does, but that triangle is also tied to that pipe or to the tile line.
Okay. Did you see how the pipeline from the west comes down at an angle and then shoots across at a roughly perpendicular to the railroad track there?
Yep.
Did Summit give you any explanation of why they wouldn't just keep going at an angle, cross perpendicular, and then go south and not impact any of you or your son's property?
Well, I think they had said that to be able to directional bore it and to make it perpendicular, at a right angle to the railroad tracks, that's why they had to do all the finagling there make it work.
Now, you had talked about the future ability to impound water that you could use for your operation, your son's operation, and would the inability to do that cause you economic hardship in the future?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this year, I think we had one rain at the beginning of August and haven't had anything since. If we could have irrigated, put an inch or two or more of water back on the farm, that would have made a huge difference in our yields.
And did you say that Summit had told you, represented to you, that they couldn't move the pipeline, and then they come out and see there's a hog facility, and now all of a sudden they can move it?
Yep. So that seemed a little odd. That it sounds like they can move it when they think they need to.
Did you learn from that anyone opposed should just start building structures on the proposed route to get it moved?
Well, it made me wonder if a hog building at my place might work out pretty well too. I don't know.
Right. Now, have you been staying in pretty close contact with these proceedings, or at least observing, listening?
Not as well as I should have. I'm more of a put my head in the sand and see what happens when it all clears. So I haven't paid as much attention. When a guy said he had 500 hours in it, I've probably got maybe 100 at the most. I don't have near the time that some of these other people have put in.
All right, and your 100 hours, the Summit hasn't offered to compensate you for that?
No, sir.
And do you have any opinion on whether or not any part of this project is in the public convenience and necessity for Iowans?
I don't think it is. I just can't imagine that qualifies for public convenience or public use.
Are you familiar with the Office of Consumer Advocate and what that is?
Yes.
And do you understand that their job is
Objection outside the scope.
State your objection. Oh, thank you. Mr. Jorde, would you like to reply?
Yeah. What scope is it outside of?
It's nowhere in the witness's direct testimony, so it's nothing for him to cross-examine about.
Okay. Well, I guess I'd just say the OCA is supposed to represent consumers in the public interest, and they're not doing a darn thing, haven't asked a question all day of anybody. So I guess I'll just say that and withdraw the question. Thanks, sir. I don't have anything further.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from? Okay. I don't think so. No. Board Member Burns?
Yep. Just clarify again, I think Mr. Taylor asked you about Indigo.
Yep.
So what is Indigo again?
So Indigo is one of the companies that is using carbon credits. I'm assuming they're selling them to other companies. So whatever we can sequester, they'll pay us something. Other companies are paying them so that they can be zero carbon, so that they can, for instance, ethanol plants, instead of sending their CO2 down a pipeline, they could pay Indigo money for us to sequester their carbon on the way we farm, the way we do our strip till and no till and cover crops. Because that's supposed to keep more carbon in the ground than if we rip it up with a ripper or do conventional tillage.
When was I think I asked the Fair family this, and I don't recall what the answer was. When did that pipeline when did that tile get put in?
I think it was 2014, I believe. I'm not positive, but I believe it was 2014.
And we have heard in the last 5 weeks a lot of comments about concerns over the land and what it does to the land when you do this with the pipeline.
Yep.
And Iowa has land restoration rules with Chapter 9 since Dakota Access. And as I look at this Google Earth map, I can still see where that tile project went in at.
What year was the Google Earth map?
2016.
Okay.
So
I would say if you did it 2023, I'm not sure you'd see that anymore.
So were you there when that project got done?
Yes, I was.
And did you guys use kind of a process to try to, here's the black dirt goes here, the other dirt goes here?
Yes, we did.
And tried to restore it as best as you could on that project? Okay.
Yep, we did. We did have some of the old tile were crushed by the weight of the excavators, so we did have to go back and fix some of the old clay tile that had been crushed because they couldn't handle, and they weren't very deep. I mean, if you're digging them in by hand, you know, you didn't put them in as deep as you would now.
I'm just looking here on your testimony, see if I got anything else quickly. Have you talked to Indigo or Corteva about if this would disqualify you from the program yet?
I have not yet, because I wasn't sure if this was a done deal yet or not, so I have not. Plus, I haven't gotten my money for 2022 yet, so I didn't know how far I'd get asking them what's going to happen in the future.
And you did state that you're a Pioneer seed dealer?
I am.
Okay. I think that's all I have. I don't see any other notes that I had, so thank you.
Just one more follow-up on that carbon capture program. So it appears that Corteva would be evaluating your land due to practices that
That's
you
correct.
would
Yes.
undertake. So do you think that that means that, you know, maybe for a couple of years there would be a disqualification due to the construction, but after it's restored and you're back to those practices?
I don't know the answer to that yet, I guess. You know, I'm not sure. And do they throw me out only when the pipeline's going, or do they throw me out of the whole farm? I don't know that for sure either.
So just some uncertainty.
I'm just assuming that if it's getting tore up like that, it's not going to qualify.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, now you get to redirect yourself so you can clarify any of your answers you provided to questions today.
I wanted to talk about the survey crew just a little bit. I was a little disappointed in the way they went about things. We had a brand new cement road put in front of us in 2017, and instead of asking this county engineer where to locate the pins at, they went in and started digging holes in the cement trying to find the pins, and they weren't close. They were 3 foot off, so they have a 4-inch round hole in the cement looking for the pin that wasn't there. Had they asked the county engineer, he would have said, I'll show you where it's at. So I didn't think they needed to dig through a new highway just to find a pin that they could ask somebody about where it was at. So then they said they were going to come survey, and I asked them if they would notify me when they would come out. And it wasn't that I was upset they were coming out. I use crop protection products that have an REI, which is a restricted entry interval. So if I spray something, so for instance, one of them says, do not allow worker entry into treated areas during the restricted entry interval of 24 hours. So if I would spray something and before they were there and they didn't know that, it could damage their health. And so I thought I would try to help them stay safe, you know, by saying, well, I didn't spray. Yep, absolutely. You know, it should be good. Instead, I come down the road and there's 18 people in the field. They had a bunch of college kids that were down there looking for artifacts. And I felt that they hadn't paid attention to me at all. It was for their health. It was for their, you know, so they'd be safe. But instead, they didn't pay any attention to that at all. And there were 18 people walking around in the field. I was fortunate that I hadn't sprayed anything that would have been detrimental to them before that, but that was always the possibility. So I was concerned about when they were going to be in there. So I guess the surveying, the changing of the pipeline for a hog building, the track record for honesty and transparency is a little suspect for me. I guess I think they could do a little better job of that. I guess that's all I've got. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Estate of Bonnie Wallace.